On this episode of Overthinkr, we're talking about GABF, the Great American Beer Fest, and medals on medals on medals on medals, and how the Pacific Northwest is just better at beer than everybody else. They found us. I don't know how, but they found us. This is the Overthinkr Show, coming at you live from Vice Beer in Vancouver, Washington. What's up, everybody?
We are
That's
here.
you guys. You know, there's actually a live studio audience where two or more are gathered. It's an audience, I think. This podcast brought to you by ZZeppelin. And you can follow us at Overthinkr Show on all the major platforms and find us all over the places you get podcasts. Of course, you can watch us on YouTube as well. We're super stoked today to have some incredible guests from the Oregon beer scene. We've got Matt Van Wyk from Alesong, Brewing and Blending. What's up, Matt?
Hey, thanks for having us. I appreciate it.
Stoked you're here. From outside of Eugene, Oregon is where the brewery
That's right.
is.
Yep.
Yeah. So made the trek up here to the Portland area, even crossed the big evil Columbia River to be with us, which is awesome for Oregonians to do. Should do it more often. And Drew Worden from Fort George Brewery in Astoria, Oregon. What's up, Drew?
It's all true. Thanks for having us.
It's all true.
I also crossed the river, for whatever that's worth.
You did.
I like it. It's a beautiful
It's worth
drive.
a lot.
Yeah.
It's worth a lot.
It's one of my favorite things.
There's only like 2 times a day that you shouldn't do it. And I think those 2
This is
times
one
a
of
day.
them. I came out very early to avoid that.
Okay,
yes.
good. Because, it's those 2 times a day that scare everybody else from coming across the river. It's really not that bad over here.
It's true.
We're good people.
I actually have to come through here to get to Astoria from Portland, so it works
It's
really
easy.
well.
Easy. Awesome. We're talking Great American Beer Fest today, which is the America's largest beer festival. It is what it sounds like. It's appropriately named the Great American Beer Festival. It's a huge production that happens in Denver, Colorado, every fall, autumn, right as the seasons change. And part of the Great American Beer Fest is that there's a competition that happens that coincides with it, where winners are announced in a whole lot of different categories. In fact, it's 102 different beer categories. And this year, there's some additional categories. They added cider to it, which we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. It was the 40th annual Great American Beer Fest. Drew, Matt, you guys have been to Great American Beer Fest before.
Many times, yeah.
It's true.
Lots of times, Matt. How many times?
My first year was 2004.
Okay.
So not 20 times because I missed it this year. I'm very sad to not be there. And then, of course, COVID wasn't a thing. COVID year wasn't a thing. So I bet I've been out there 18 times.
Well,
I'm old. That just means I'm old.
I bet it was a little different back then, too.
It was very different back then. Yes. When I started going, there was probably 1,500 breweries in the country, and now there's 10,000. There was also 9,000 and something beers entered, and I don't know what it was in 2004, but it was definitely smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When you went back then, let's talk early, like 04 to 2010, because I think we could agree that like 2010 was kind of when the boom hit. Like all of a sudden, breweries really started popping up everywhere. What was that like in terms of what did the floor look like at GABF? Like for how many breweries were there, present, pouring? What was the vibe then?
Yeah, I don't know the numbers, but it definitely was similar to what you've seen in maybe previous years. Maybe not this year because they did change a bunch of things with all the different experiences and things to make it more attractive to young people. But back in the day, it was probably similar to how it has been because they always kind of expand and contract the size of the what do you call that?
The hall,
The
right?
hall,
They can
yes.
like divide
Yep,
up that
and so-
huge floor.
Right. And so
into-
sometimes if they, take up less square footage, then you're like, wow, it's really crowded in here. There's tons of people. But you're like, no, they just haven't spread us over space. And when you're in a big hall like that, a big convention center, you can't really tell how many square feet the whole place is unless you have a bird's eye view. But the interesting thing back then is, and people who've been around the craft beer industry for a while know this, is it used to be you could just throw beers out there and everyone was really excited because you couldn't get this beer, you couldn't get this beer. So you want to go to GABF to try beers you'll never have before. And that's still the case in some instances. But at the same time, everywhere you go, whether you're in Vermont or Florida or Oregon or Washington, you can get great beers from all over the country, world-class beers. And so you don't get that excited about going to a place because there's not as many beers there you've never tried. You're like, so it used to be, oh, I got Pliny the Elder. And now you're like, yeah, it was on the shelf at Belmont Station. I picked up a bottle. It was tasty, right? And I don't want to say we're jaded now, but we are because we have the wealth of great beer in our country in every town.
There's an element of that for sure. I think post-COVID had a little something to do with that as well. What COVID did for packaging beer, was it's still an incredible effect. It's still out there. Like, I think it's even hard for some of us to remember that 5 years ago, like most of your local breweries did not can or bottle their beer at all. They had it on draft at their pubs and they sold kegs out the back door, and like that was that. Now that so many are packaging, and so many breweries that get exciting, they find their way to drop some beers off in Seattle or Portland, and we do get a lot of exciting. You're right. Like I remember I've gone 7 years now in a row, and 7 years ago it was very like, oh my gosh, there's Russian River, there's Lord Hobo, there's these different breweries that now I'm like, well, every couple months there's a beer drop in Portland, that of some crazy East Coast cool brewery, if not, a function pop up, where, somebody awesome from either California or the East Coast is actually like a resident of Portland for a month, and we get to try all kinds of fun stuff.
Totally.
So there's an element of that changed.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a second before we get into all the awards and everything. There was a lot of talk around the layout this year. This year they divided up the entire festival into 4 quadrants, and then there were like 2 little separate sub areas. I'll say those 2 little sub areas where there was a Meet the Brewer area. So there were a bunch of booths that you were guaranteed that somebody from the brewery was going to be there. So that's cool. You're not getting a pour from a volunteer. You're meeting someone. And then there was the heavy metal area. Heavy metal as in MEDAL, a medal-winning brewery. A beer that won last year is on tap at the heavy metal area. That's kind of cool as well. The areas were, I would say, 3 out of 4 in my opinion. Well, Drew, you were there. I saw you several times.
I was there.
That's why you're here tonight. Is because I kept running into you all over Denver. But I would say 3 out of 4 of the areas were well themed. Yep. I liked the theming.
What was the one you didn't like?
The one that I was like, I think you missed, is sports.
Yeah, that's where we were. There it is. Yeah, so we had that queued up.
Yeah, sports was a little, it was a little off. I guess there was like a TV playing sports on something somewhere.
There were 3.
Were there?
Yes, they were small though.
I saw 1.
Yes.
So I mean,
2 were joined.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You couldn't see them because they were at eye level, and at any time there was like a layer of one people,
There's
one
people
people.
everywhere.
You couldn't see the TV anymore. Yeah, it was not great for that part.
So the 4 areas
Yes.
for folks that weren't there, you had sports, you had Prost, which is a very Oktoberfest themed area. You had space,
Beer and Beyond.
Beer and
what that
Beyond
was.
is
Yes.
what it was called. Yeah,
Beer and
you're
Beyond.
Right, you're right. Beer and Beyond, and then Fright.
That was the Halloween one, right?
Yes. Yeah. Very Halloween. Fright was probably the best themed area in terms of
the most fleshed out.
Very fleshed out, like lots of like photo booth opportunities, and stuff. There was like this glowing casket you could like stand in and put yourself in, and get a photo. Lots of just haunted house kind of things. The thing so how this is different than years past is in years past, I think one of the draws of Great American Beer Fest was, to what Matt said, you can get beers you haven't tried from other places in the country. It used to be regionally organized. Right. So you knew, like I remember my first year, I was like, I'm probably not going to Texas/Oklahoma for beer anytime soon. I'm going to go try their beers. And that was a really fun experience for me to just kind of walk up and down Oklahoma and Texas and get an idea of like, what are they brewing there? What's their ethos kind of about? And then I think the other like fun element of that was anytime I wanted to see friends, there was a Pacific Northwest area, and I could walk in there and find somebody I know, and go find other beers with, or something like that. Because it's a big event. You get separated from people. You're not sure. It's kind of nice sometimes to just be like, okay, I'm going to go back to Washington and Oregon and find people I know because I'm lost. And the cell service in this giant building is not that great. It's better now. But that's a significant change and shift to... I heard a lot of feedback from folks that found it was hard to find the breweries they really wanted to find.
And they didn't have them listed really anywhere or maybe they did, but you'd have to go through a long list to see who's who and what's
what. It was alphabetical within the sections, but...
Yeah. Kind of. Because the sections, if you can imagine kind of a C shape around the section with like two lines in the middle of the C. That's kind of how they were laid out. So you had a C around the edges and then like an equal sign in the middle of the C. That was 2 rows of beers there too. So like you'd walk around the edge and that might take you A to F, but then you were like, well, now where does G start? I'm not sure. And it was kind of disorienting. But it was supposed to be alphabetical within the section. And of course you had the list on either the app or, there were signs everywhere and things like that. But so you could go and say, okay, I want to go to this place. It's got a pretzel by it. It must be in Prost. So I'm going to go to Prost and try to find this brewery that starts with an M. And you might kind of walk around a bit to try to figure out where that's at. It was tough in that regard, I think.
Definitely. And I got to, like, we were pouring for the entire festival, but like we took shifts. So we had time to kind of hang out in the fest and go find friends and whatnot and taste beers.
Yeah.
But I spent portions of all 3 sessions that were out there trying to find breweries and meet people I hadn't met before and whatnot. And I would get kind of cordoned into a corner or into one of those sections. I didn't get to explore the entire festival over, probably 6 hours of meandering over the 3 sessions. So if it was regional, I definitely would have been able to seek out kind of the things I wanted and have a little bit more.
Yeah, even if it is organized that way, it's still hard to see it all, do it all. Yeah. So you have to have a plan. And if it's a little more confusing to find someone,
So talk about confusing to find someone or something. Matt, you just try to imagine this because you weren't there this year.
No.
So imagine that you're trying to find someone or something, and it's completely dark.
Oh yes.
So Space and Fright were both completely dark.
And you couldn't see the signs of the behind their booth probably well.
Well, yeah, because the booths, you know how they usually have it set up. You've got the curtain back there and you've got the sign. Well, across the top of the curtain were like glowing light strips. So you've got light coming back at you. As a middle-aged man, I'm dealing with some eyesight things in my life. these guys that run the show, they know the lights for this show. I'm always even like, this is too bright, too bright, too bright. I can't see. I can't. Yeah. So like, it was difficult. That made it even more difficult to find things. And then certainly, if those breweries didn't have something down on their table for me to read what they had, for me to look up at their board, I just didn't get anything from them because I'm like, I can't read what you have up there. There's a glowing light coming back my way. I can't read your sign. I'm on to the next because I need to be able to see something, down on the table that I can actually read, to know the name of the beer, the style of the beer. I couldn't make them out.
Totally.
So there's some feedback.
Yeah, there's some feedback.
So far, it sounds like we're just absolutely crapping on.
We just
GABF.
absolutely hated it. It was so great.
So much. No, it was great, and I would say that one of you mentioned that they'd done some things to try to make it more appealing to young people. I think it was you, Matt, said that earlier. I think they achieved that. I saw a lot of younger people than me that were super stoked on beers and super stoked to be there. To me, that's an exciting thing. That's a big plus. What was happening on social media and everything was all over the place all the time because of these themed areas. That to me is a win as well. I wonder if they couldn't have taken those 4 themed areas and also just kind of broken up that regionally. Just said, hey, this is, this big section of the country. This is this section of the country. So that, you associated Prost with something. Yeah. There were some theming oddities. Like it was cool that like Ghost Town Brewing, guess where they were? They're in Fright. Yeah. Ecliptic Brewing, guess where they were?
Space.
No. Why?
Right.
Why weren't they Ecliptic Brewing should have been in the space thing. That would have been just totally on brand for them and totally
because they needed to be beside the Ninkasi thing, which was in the dinosaur section. And so how could they do the space and the dinosaur together? It wouldn't work.
I believe that we requested, we were in sports, but you get to rank choice kind of like for the section you wanted to be in.
Oh, when you
and I
signed
don't
up.
recall what I signed up for, but sports I don't believe was in the top few, and we were put in sports. So I don't know the rubric for how they determined who was going where, but we ended up in sports, and then it ended up being, what it was.
Yeah. There were a few Northwest folks in sports. Funny was over there.
We were right next to Fremont in our area, which was
Fremont
nice.
was over there. Yeah. It was just an interesting layout. That's what I'll say. But the theming was fun. There was fun things to do there.
The energy was good.
The energy was,
Tell me about the wrestling.
great.
That I saw pictures of the wrestling.
There was wrestling.
There was luchador
Was that cool?
wrestling. Yes, which was oh my goodness, and I forgot the name of the brewery. It is a Latino-owned brewery.
Howdy? Was it Howdy?
No, they were near that though.
Okay.
They were right next to them. But it's a cerveceria. It was a Latino-owned brewery. I think they might just be called Cerveceria Colorado.
There you go.
I think that's it.
It sounds familiar.
But great booth they had, and then right in front of them, this ring with luchadors. And that was a lot of fun. That was fun to see, and they were right next to sports. I think that could have been a more fun thing to be in sports, like actually in that section. They were kind of adjacent to it. But if that's something that, could have been incorporated somehow, because like Prost had these activities and stuff. There was Stein holding contests and Oompa bands, and, there was stuff going on in Prost, and then sports was just bright, and I'm told there was TVs.
It was very
saw
bright.
One.
It was like a supermarket after close when they just like turn all the lights super bright.
Yeah. It was kind of odd over there. Let's talk about the competition. That was a good. We talked a lot about the festival itself, which is awesome. We'll talk a little bit about the events outside of the festival as well. We'll get to that. But inside the festival, on Saturday, they announced the winners of the awards. Now, this year, 273 breweries won 326 medals in 102 categories. That's a lot. It seems like a lot until you realize that over 12,000 12,000 beers were entered into this competition. That's a lot. In fact, you said that in 2004, when you first went, there was about 1,500 breweries
in the country. Not in the fest.
More than that entered the competition this year. So it's an extremely competitive competition. To come away with anything is a feat. We won't name names, but there were some notable absences. There were breweries that we feel like, hey, every year we go and we see this name and we hear this name that weren't named this year. That's how difficult it is to win an award. But let's talk about how our region did. So 2023, last year, Oregon had a good showing with 27 medals in 2023. This year, Waashington surpassed that number and had 28 medals this year. That's Waashington. So Waashington beat Oregon's 2023 number. But Oregon didn't slow down. Oregon leaped out in front and still had 38 medals awarded this year, which is phenomenal. That deserves a clap track. There it is.
That's the third highest, I think, behind California and Colorado. I think that was how it was listed.
Which is incredible. I mean, and California has probably so just number of breweries to kind of bring that into perspective too. Number of breweries in Oregon is in the low 300s.
I think so.
I believe.
Sounds right.
I know that in Waashington we're somewhere around 470s, 480s. So we actually have more breweries than Oregon. Yet Oregon medaled more. That there's definitely something to be said for that. Then you get into California, and in California, we're talking 4 digits of breweries.
Yeah, 1,000, 1,100.
It's around 1,100,
like
I believe. Yeah. So that's that shouldn't be a surprise that California could do well. And Colorado, I don't know exactly their numbers. I don't know what they have for numbers, but they are the host state.
Yep.
Denver is the host city. And so it's a little bit easier to get your entries to the destination.
They are able to drive them right over there.
Yep, you just drive them in, and here you go. There is something to be said for that. I briefly, I'll even mention that some in the industry joke or quip about it being the Great American Packaging Awards, because there is a science to getting your entries to Denver still tasting good.
Yeah.
It's not like, you may trade beer with your friends across the country and put some cans in a box and ship it across in a hot plane and truck and another truck and another truck, and it ends up at your friend's house and you're like, oh, this beer's really good. Sorry, beer traders kind of irk me. But because the best beer you have is near your house, just so you know. But beer doesn't travel well. So the packaging awards is kind of a thing. There's an element of that to it, for sure. That getting your beer there in good condition is huge. Here's the crazy thing: is this year they awarded 6 different Brewery of the Year awards. Now, why did they do 6 different Brewery of the Year awards? Well, they split it up by the size of your brewery. So there's one awarded for up to 250 barrels, and then it's 250 to 500, then 500 to 1,000, and then it gets kind of big from there, like 1,000 to 5,000, then up to 50,000, and then I think there's 100,000.
I think it's 5 to 100,000. Like there's a huge
Something
category.
There's a big gap there. Okay, I might have listed off more, more sections and categories than there are. There's 6. You can look them up. But there were 6 awarded. 3 of them went to Oregon, which is incredible. And they were Sun River Brewing in Bend, Grand Fir Brewing in Portland, Oregon, and Alesong. Matt Van Wyck's brewery from Eugene, Oregon.
So cool.
Which is incredible. It's an incredible accomplishment. I've been there at the GABF Awards before, and one of my earliest memories is I didn't know you were sitting near us, but you had won an award that year, and like popped up in front of me and went, and I was just like, wow,
He's right there.
Great, he's right here. Oh, that's cool. Being there this year, of course, I'm scanning the room going, where's Matt? Is he not here?
I never miss.
No.
I never miss, except for this year. Oh, now I can never go back because I just, I jinxed it.
You win Brewery of the Year when you're not there.
Yes, right.
So that's the trend.
Yeah. So I'm not going next year. So I can win again.
There you go.
You won a bronze medal for Touch of Brett.
Yep.
And Touch of Brett is available pretty regularly. Yeah.
We make it once a year. Yeah.
Okay.
It was actually the first Great American Beer Festival medal we earned in 2016 was our first year. We got a gold in the Brett beer category for that. And so we were only 5 months old at that time. And so we said, well, I guess we'll keep making that one.
Wild.
And so now we make it once a year. Yeah.
What year was that again?
It was 2016.
2016.
Fall of 2016. We sold our first beer on May 31st of 2016.
And then you won gold for wood and barrel aged sour.
Yep.
For French 75.
Yep.
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so we have several beers that are cocktail inspired. We've made an old fashioned Manhattan. We have a Bellini inspired beer. This one happens to be after the, wait for it, French 75.
Oh.
And it's a gin barrel aged beer. French 75 cocktail is gin, simple syrup, some lemon, and then bubbles, champagne, sparkling wine. And so we take our Brett Saison and age in ransom spirits gin barrels for 6 months or so. And we add some lemon peel after it's been aged. And then we carb it a little higher to get that spritziness. And voila, you have a beer that evokes flavors of a French 75 cocktail.
Awesome.
Yeah. And interestingly, it was, there isn't any added lactobacillus, but it had a little tartness, somewhat from the lemon peel, maybe from something else. Who knows, we're a barrel-aged brewery. Things happen and things taste acidic, more or less. So the question you ask yourself is, do you put this in a barrel-aged sour category? Because to us, it wasn't very sour, but every time we entered it in something, they said, too sour for this category we entered.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, if you guys think that tastes sour, I'm going to put it in the barrel-aged sour category. And we did. Fortunately, we got a gold medal, and here we are.
Just the right amount of sour.
Yep, just the right.
Apparently, exactly.
It worked
the
for
right
those
amount.
judges in 2024.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. Congratulations
Thank you.
again. And Fort George, you guys won for the chocolate beer category.
It's true.
Which is awesome that there's a chocolate beer category. That's fantastic. For Fudge Sickles.
Fudge Sickles.
I haven't got my mouth around Fudge Sickles yet.
There's still some in the world, but it's kind of hard to say exactly where it is. Yeah. Good luck.
Okay.
We are going
Okay.
to bring some back for Stout Month in February.
Of
Just
course.
a small batch of that, and then hopefully a larger batch a little bit down the road from that. But
Awesome. And it's very on brand for Fort George, the curators of Festival of Dark Arts, to win for a dark chocolate stout.
Totally.
It's perfect.
kind of along the lines of what Matt was saying too, that was a barrel aged imperial stout that we then It was actually brewed as literally the base beer was called Fudge Sickles. It was kind of intended to eventually see chocolate, and was brewed with a lot of chocolate-leaning malts and whatnot, some long boils. And then spent a year plus in barrels, and we packaged it. I think there's like 7 different kinds of chocolate on the finish.
Yeah.
But it was a barrel-aged stout, so like there was debate on where it would fit the best, and we didn't want it to be disqualified from one thing or another. Or it could have, we ran the risk of it being disqualified from the chocolate beer for being too barrel forward. But it was, I think, a really great melding of kind of all of the components, and that's why it won gold.
Picking your category with your beer is incredibly crucial.
Yeah,
Speaking of categories of beers, this was the first year that GABF introduced categories for not beers. In fact, they did a cider competition for the first time ever. Great American Beer Fest is becoming a little bit more and more the Great American Beverage Fest. And you're not going to believe this, but the first cidery of the year is from Oregon. And oh my gosh, they're here right now. They're here right now.
Out of here.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Wandering in your brewery. What's he doing right there?
ladies and gentlemen, Brandon Torbert from Two Town Cider House, the first and only GABF Cidery of the Year. That is an incredible distinction to have, and I'm sure the party that followed at Two Towns was phenomenal.
It was a wild one. We were incredibly humbled by the experience. We got our first taste of GABF allowing ciders to be sampled the year before, and so we were super amped to be involved. And finally, a lot of us at Two Towns are big beer fanatics as well as, into the cider world. And we were just honored that it was finally happening. It was finally our time to kind of show some stuff there. And a little worried at first. I think a lot of cideries were nervous about how that would affect things like glint cap and things where cider was the only thing being judged, but just excited to be included in that group. I think we've fought so hard for so many years to have cider in the beer conversation. So to be there, to get this award, the inaugural, the first, they can never take that from us. And that's incredibly humbling and super excited. So.
It's super awesome. And it you're right. It's a long time coming that cider should be celebrated alongside beer in that way on the biggest stage in America for the beer beverages. To bring cider into that, I think makes sense. I don't know why. I know that cider so often finds itself because I know why. It's because it's fermented fruit. It finds itself alongside wine.
Yep.
But cider doesn't drink like wine. The carbonation, the fact that you can enjoy most of it by the pint, just like beer is mostly drank by the pint. It just feels like it belongs at this table, the beer table, more so than it does the wine table. So I was really excited to see that come together, and that's pretty cool.
You know what else belongs at this table?
Oh, God.
Your favorite, as always. In tradition, anytime you see Michael, you have to bring him a brown. It's his favorite beer style. And so every time I see him, I bring him a nice little brown. This is the 2017 Bravo from Firestone Walker.
It's even an old brown.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
choice.
Oh, yeah. I made sure that we got it nice and old just for you because, I'm also drinking your Better Than Ezra wet hop just for you, Ezra.
Wetter than Ezra.
I love that.
Yeah, so wetter than Ezra.
Yeah, so for despising browns, you sure make a good one, sir.
There's
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
brown ales all around.
Speaking of breweries not winning, Firestone Walker was on a maybe 12-year winning streak of winning awards, and they're one of the best breweries in the country, right? Hands down. They didn't win this year, so it is a hard competition.
It is. It's extremely difficult, and that is wild. 12-year
kudos
streak.
to you. I mean, like their barrel, they've been doing some of the best barrel aging products for a long time.
Yeah.
So to get a gold medal in that category, I imagine, and not see them is...
Yeah, and I have no idea if it's 12. It was just a lot. So if it was like 18, sorry, Firestone Walker. It was a lot, but
It was a lot.
Alesong's at 9 years in a row, and we're the third most current streak in the country. So
Wow, you got a streak
of
9 in a row.
Porch Drinking blog out in Colorado keeps track of current streaks, and Figueroa Mountain in California is the highest, and Cannonball Creek. Which nice shirt, Michael, is second
Cannonball
right now.
Creek shirt.
Yep, they've won
The best beer you'll have in a 7-Eleven parking lot.
and then Alesong's third. So, yeah.
I also want to say that like there's a lot of I think that a lot of people even outside of the industry or just fans of the industry that they see the awards and they see surprising winners a lot, category winners or breweries that win that they may not feel are like as good as a brewery like Firestone that doesn't medal, and that might just kind of discredit the competition a little bit. I see that a lot across competitions, and the process these beers go through and the feedback we get, we see the tables it goes to and the amount of judges it gets in front of just from all around the country and the world that come and judge these things, that it really means that maybe it is the Great American Packaging Festival and figuring out when the right beer is ready to send it and making sure it's packaged right and everything so it tastes great for the judges. But I mean, it means that beer was awesome. And
I think that even speaks that should like put more onus and more credit on those who can put together a streak to do something so difficult so consistently. Matt, I tried to do my research for today. I didn't know you had 9 in a row. This is that is incredible.
Every year.
That is so incredible, and speaks to that consistency. That it's interesting to me. Let's get into the industry here a little bit. We're gonna
dig deep.
We're gonna go a little layered underneath here. It's interesting to me some of the brands that get I'll call it hype. They get the attention and they get the hype, and you go, well, where is what do I point to tell me that this is great beer? Who's saying it's great besides the Hayes Bros or sorry to call you out, but the hype train, that there's an element of that I think every brewery has to be aware of and cognizant of. How do I get people excited about my brand and my liquid? But I don't know. There's a few names out there that are
that packaging helps sell beer, right? That your brand is your label, the art, and all that stuff helps sell your beer. But guess what? In a competition, the judge does not see what cute little cartoon characters you have on your label. That means nothing to them. It's
they
just
don't know the name of the beer.
No, it's a blind tasting. They get them in plastic cups with a number on them, and so that takes all that kind of thing away. It takes the hype away. You don't see an untapped score before you start judging it, right? So you have no influence on it. It's just, what does this taste like? And so you're going to have that situation where a hype beer doesn't win awards.
A lot of hype beer doesn't get entered as well.
Sure.
There's cost barriers to some people, and some people that view their resources better spent in other areas. I know that Nick Arsner, for instance, invested in a cool ship instead of sending beer to GABF a few years.
He enters like every other year or something. Just
so
because.
that can certainly be part of a strategy.
Help people
and then
out
other people that just
who don't know who Nick Arsner is.
Block 15
Block 15.
owner.
Yeah,
Yes.
owner, founder. Yes, good call. But then others that never enter for whatever their own reasons are, that you don't know whether they've been judged or not. There's thousands of beers that don't win medals that you never know whether they were entered or not unless they tell you.
Well, and don't you guys feel like if you have the hype train, it's kind of a lose-lose situation, right? Like you enter the beer and it gets an award. If you're already crushing it with sales, it's not going to increase your sales a whole lot. But if you don't get an award, then it's like, okay, well, maybe my beer isn't worth the hype that it's built. So
I know of one hype brewer that I've spoken with, and I'll leave it nameless as well, that did say to me one time, well, yeah, we don't enter the awards because if my beer gets a bronze or silver and someone else gets the gold, then suddenly I'm not not in people's minds where I'm already at. I'm already here in people's minds. Why would I want to be third in people's minds?
That's fair. That's totally fair.
And
I would just say that the medal winning beers are amazing beers, and
they are.
And you just have to know that there's a better beer than yours out there, and you should be trying to make a better beer all the time.
Yeah,
to be the best.
And I think that I would love to see more weight be put on winning these awards when there's a question of that amongst the industry. I hear it talked about that, what does it really mean? Is that really going to help my sales that I win this or that? If I get a medal for this, does it really move the needle? I would argue yes. I think it is very validating. I think that I wish more publications that were not specific to beer would pick that up and talk about that. I don't know. Maybe you guys know I'm not a frequent Oregonian follower or reader. I follow a lot of Oregonian people, but not the magazine or the newspaper. But did the Oregonian talk about these awards at all? Have you seen any coverage like that?
That's a good question. Usually they do put a lot of beer stuff in there. I don't know if I saw that or not. But yeah. I could speak real quick to that idea of what is it worth, and some of that is what you pull out of it, what effort you put into it. So Alesong has been fortunate to earn 13 GABF medals, and we finally got our first World Beer Cup award this year, so that was great. Prior to that, I won 2 at another brewery. I won 9 at a brewery before moving out to Oregon. So I've been at breweries that have won 24 medals at GABF. Now, am I known all over the country in the craft brewing industry? No. And has my breweries grown to be 20,000 barrels? No. So it's not like it's going to turn you into, gosh, people just can't wait to get like medals or whatever. But it gives you something to talk about. It gives your distributor something to talk about. It gives you stuff to put on social media. I deliver our beer all over Oregon and Southwest Washington. I have a Toyota Sequoia that was kind of weighed down today because I got a lot of orders, and typically I don't have that many for Portland. So guess what? I sold more beer because I won some awards. I told people we won Brewery of the Year, and they said, great, I'll take a case. Great, I'll take a keg. So did it sell more beer? Yes. Is it going to... we won in the 251 to 500 barrel category. We're very small. Am I going to be 1,000 barrels next year? No, I'm not. So yes, it helps. No, it doesn't turn you into the next best thing. So, but you have to do the work to promote it, right? If you don't tell people that you won Brewery of the Year or won a gold medal, no one's going to really know. So
I think also those like the IPA categories and even the Pilsner and Lager categories definitely can have that potential if you're the type of brewery that's producing a certain volume or have a certain context to the beer that you make. Like that could really push you up there. Put Bodie's off on the map. I don't know that Georgetown would be on the trajectory they're on without Bodie kind of doing what it did. They have 3 of the top 3 craft items in the state of Washington. That's rare and awesome.
Yeah, I would say so. At Vice Beer didn't win any medals at GABF, but we won a West Coast IPA medal at the Best of West Coast IPA Award.
Nice job.
That's
it's important.
It is. It's tough competition.
So I only bring that up to say it did make my phone ring. My text messages lit up from people that I've always looked up to and thought, man, it would be cool to do a collaboration with them sometime or something like that. And suddenly that text was there and, hey, we should do something. And like, yes, awesome. Okay. So it opened doors even in that way. Let's talk about those who don't win. There is another like benefit of the awards. So, each brewery actually gets their judges' feedback. You get the judges' notes from each table. These are people who, the judges at GABF are world class. We could list out name after name after name of many of them. Just needless to say, they're incredible at what they do, and they return year after year and judge these awards, and you get that anonymous feedback. You don't know who it's from, but you know that it's someone significant in this industry, and you get some real feedback on not only your beer, but oftentimes the notes are even how it compared to the other beers on the table, and you get to find out like how did it go for you. I mean, of course, in these judging, they're not sitting down and drinking 200 IPAs. No one's doing that. It's usually 6 to 9 at a time that are on the table. So for those who aren't familiar with it, you're knowing how far your beer made it. So the first table, did it advance to another round? Did it advance to the round after that? And for something like IPA, there's several rounds.
I think it's 5 rounds now.
Five rounds. Yeah.
And do they use the same judges for, or is it like a?
So I've judged since 2007, and some judges do go from round to round to round, but usually you'll do a table here and then you'll move to another style, or you might be. Maybe it's a 3-round category and you get to do all 3, which is great, but that doesn't always happen. It'll switch around. And so there'll be tables and everyone passes their top 3 beers on. And like Michael said, you get the notes on that. And then it goes to the second round, they pass 3 on. And depending on how large the category is, it'll get to the medal round table. And there's always more judges on the beers at the medal round. And instead of like 3, there'll be 6 or 7. And so it's vetted through several rounds and several great palettes. And I will just add to what Michael said. I've judged since 2007. I've sat beside the Anheuser-Busch quality control manager, and you say what you will about the beers that they make, but that person knew way more about beer flavors and off flavors than me. Garrett Oliver, just start naming some luminaries in the industry.
Tanya Cornett and Ben Edmonds.
People that have won tons of awards. Yeah. It's a world-class judging.
And it should be noted that they also are very careful to make sure those who are judging a certain table or a certain round of something, even though they're from the industry, so somebody like a Ben Edmonds is never going to be at a table with a Breakside beer on the table.
Right. They do allow you to judge beer categories you entered, which is new. It used to be I could never do a barrel-aged stout category. But they changed that because they want the experts on it. You want Ben Edmonds from Breakside to be judging the IPA category, but they make sure there are no Breakside beers on that. And then if they make the medal round, he doesn't get to judge that.
Yeah. So. You hear about that sometimes. The scuttlebutt, you sometimes hear about, oh, yeah, I was supposed to judge the medal round of this, but I got kicked off the table. And you're usually
that's a good
like,
thing.
That's great. Good job. That's a very positive thing. That means your beer is on the table and you can't be there. Yeah.
Speaking of what you guys were kind of talking about earlier about what the medal means, I was at Breakside's distributor in 2016, 2017 when they got the gold for the IPA, and they were just at the Deacon location at that time. And I remember the first week, it was like, at that time Breakside IPA was an excellent beer. We were going through about 30, 40 half barrels a week. Instantly next week, 120 orders, out of stock all the time. And then it became a feeding frenzy. So sometimes these medals, it's almost good that you can't keep up with that production, because then every time a customer sees that in stock, whether they've got space for it or not, I'm taking it right now. And with your barrel age stuff, I can sit on this. I can play with it 6 months from now, whatever the case is. It just kind of creates that urgency, which I really like.
Yeah.
We're seeing that this week with our ciders, stuff that we haven't sold a whole lot of over a couple of years, like 10th anniversary. We made that cider almost 5 years ago. So to see this resurgence and the attention on it, it just, those feeding frenzies are what we crave.
I was interested to see how Two Towns, the reaction was, because, you're a very large cidery compared to other ones in the country, very well established, a lot of awards. And does it have kind of the same sort of reaction as breweries get? So
I think it's going to be huge. Not only in some of our newer markets where we're still trying to figure out Colorado. It is going to be awesome to see what happens over the next 6 months in Colorado. Just see what, I think a lot of doors when you go into out of state places are closed, and you have to really not almost knock the door down to really get people to even taste your stuff and take you seriously. But something like that is just like, now it's almost like, you're crazy not to at least just taste it.
It brings some legitimacy to your company.
Yeah,
and to your
when we try and go into a place like Coors Field or something like that, right? In the heart of Denver. Nobody's answering the door. They see this, and people start calling you instead of you trying to chase them
they
down.
didn't answer Alesong when we knocked on the door either. It was weird. I don't get it.
Yeah, so
Coors Field, touch
it
of
opens
breath.
some doors for you that maybe were closed prior. So it's a nice little boost.
It was kind of nice on Saturday, the session after the awards. There used to be 2 sessions on Saturday, which is a marathon.
Right.
But only one now. But until we just got on it through email the judges' feedback of all of our beers this week. But of course, the session after the awards, we had no idea. So we could tell everybody that all the beers we were tasting were probably 4th place.
Yeah, 4th place. I've won 4th place so many times.
Yeah, I
It's
sold
great.
so many samples
Yeah.
of 4th place beer on Saturday. It was great.
I won 2 medals this year. I got 10 4th places. It was great.
I heard, did I don't know if Drew's told you this story, but I heard you had a really nice cup of coffee right before
I
the
did
awards
spill
started.
coffee on my area right before we went up to get the award. We didn't know we were going to win, but I think I now have to spill coffee on myself in the first 5 minutes of every award ceremony.
But only on your area.
Only on my area. It was on my pants. Actually, if you look closely at the GABF official pictures, there is a stain, but
On
it is
his
light.
area.
It is a light stain. I have
I
quick
know what
drying
I'm zooming in
shorts
on tonight.
as a rule.
Right. There were so many interesting poses that I've known you for the better part of, I don't know, a decade
Yeah.
and a half or so. It's so many interesting poses that I've never seen from.
Yeah,
Drew
I had a
Worden.
medal on my neck, and I could only stand in a certain way from that point on. If you know, you know.
That's great to know. I'm going to go look some of that up.
Thanks for the story, Emmett.
Yeah.
Real quick, we want to say thanks to some sponsors. This podcast doesn't have any sponsors yet. You could sponsor this podcast if you wanted to. You listening, you could do that. But Zeppelin does produce and promote the North Bank Beer Week. It's coming up November 7th to 17th, and we want to give a shout out to some of the folks who are making that possible. Super stoked. Ale and A is part of that. They're doing the holiday Craft and Ales Fest the 16th and 17th. That'll be kind of the closeout event of the beer week. So definitely check that out. Lots of local purveyors of beer will be there. We want to give a shout out to AMS Print. They have donated the labels and sponsored the beer week. The labels are going on the official beer of the beer week, being brewed by Victor 23 Craft Brewery, who won 2 medals, a silver medal and a bronze medal, both in lagers, one for Doppelbock and one for a Bohemian-style Pilsner at GABF. So they are brewing a New Zealand Pale Ale is the official beer of the beer week. So look for that. St. Lovejoy's, you know them as the kitchen at Brewhouse Brewing, but St. Lovejoy's has another arm of their business called St. Lovejoy's Sausage. and they're doing some culinary pop-ups and some things to look forward to during North Bank Beer Week. Look for St. Lovejoy Sausage. That's Colin Murray. Great dude, making amazing food. That rhymes. Yeah, it's a great dude making amazing food. Well, that's Colin. Geoff Kunkle of Edward Jones. If you want to know where to put your money so that you have some later in life, it's a good guy to talk to, Geoff Kunkle. We call him Golf Knuckle. Golf Knuckle, Geoff Kunkle. Look him up. And Crosby Hops has also donated hops, New Zealand hops, for that New Zealand Pale Ale. So thank you to all of them for doing that. And if you're a North Bank sponsor and I didn't mention your name, it's because I mentioned you on the last podcast. Check that one out when we were at Beer Mongers. It's super fun too. Denver, Great American Beer Fest. The whole town shows out for it. It's always held like somehow, some way, the last great weather day of Denver. Great weather weekend, even. There's so many times I've been like literally leaving Denver, like, Great American Beer Fest over, we're leaving.
And it's snowing.
And it starts snowing. Yeah. And you're just like, wow, we just squeezed it in. It seems like that every time. And that was the case this year too. Like it was in the 80s all week. The last day it was like 65. And I was like, oh, yep, here's clouds, here's weather. And, the low tonight's going to be 38 or something. I was like, oh, we're out of here. But Denver's a great town for this. There's so many things outside of Great American Beer Fest that you should go to Great American Beer Fest for. Like, yeah, you're going to have a great 4 hours at your session, drinking a bunch of amazing beer there. What happens outside of it is also super exciting. Do you guys have favorite outside of GABF events? Brendan, you haven't been to GABF officially.
I haven't. I missed it this year. Ailene's Oktoberfest. I was at Ailene working an event, and I honestly did not, when I got the call, hey, do you want to go to GABF? I've gotten offered the last 2 years. And I said no, not knowing that cider was actually being judged this year.
Oh, that would have been so cool. Yeah.
So I got
That's a bummer.
I got a text Saturday morning from Rob over at Stormbreaker saying, "Hey, congratulations!" And I was like, "Wait a minute, what are we talking about?"
Congrats on what?
Yeah, I turned on the live stream and started watching and rewound it about 15 minutes just to hear what was going on. As
Matt,
I was
how did you find out that you'd won? You weren't there this year.
No,
so.
but we were watching in my living room.
Okay.
I hosted the team watch party, which
cool.
typically someone does that in our company, and I'm out there either judging or just attending the fest. And though this year, since I was back, and the reason I didn't go was partly because I had a lot of travel lined up beforehand, and it was just a lot. And then also Oregon and Ohio State were playing that Saturday. So, and I got a ticket to that game. So, boo-hoo, I got to go to an awesome college football game. But regardless, to what you were saying, there are so many events outside. You can't go to them all. You could go to Great American Beer Fest weekend and just not go to the fest. You'd be missing out on that fun time. But you go to a lot of great things. Like, you can just go to different tap takeovers, Hops and Pie.
Yeah.
There's all kinds
Hops
of great
and Pie is a great spot.
Yeah,
they're like every day for like 5 days in a row. They've got some awesome event happening.
Rare beers that you can't get elsewhere. Beer Stot hosts things. There used to be an awesome beer fest called What the Funk that Crooked Stave / CSA, Crooked Stave Artisans, put on. They haven't done it in a while, but it was all like unique, wild, barrel-aged beer, just like the most unique beer fest for beer nerds for sure.
I went to one that was done by Beers Made by Walking, my first year.
Oh, yeah.
And it was in the Museum of Natural History, so I'm underneath, T-Rex skeleton, drinking awesome beers made from foraged ingredients that was super rad.
Have you done the Denver rare beer tasting, the Pints for Prostates? Rick Like, who runs Pints for Prostates, puts on. It's always a great fest. Like
don't think
some of
I
the best
have.
beers. Yeah, look that up next year.
Okay.
They held it on Thursday at Bierstadt this time. I attended for the first time last year. It's just like some of those beers you'll never find on the floor because it's like, hey, we have our last keg of this whatever beer that
It's like unbelievable. It's like 200-ish a person, but
Yeah.
it's all you can sip. Live the best of the best from the best.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like single keg of Utopias with sour cherries, the only one in existence, kind of thing.
Right. Stuff that you'd
Things
spend
side project
hundreds of
brewing,
dollars a
Green
bottle
You would trade,
on.
yeah.
that-
And like Sam Calagione is pouring, or
wow.
a lot of times, like
Super cool.
yeah, it's
Sam
just fun
Calagione of
to meet.
Dogfish Head. For those.
Yes, it's fun to meet the heroes sometimes.
Yeah.
And then Paired is also on the bottom floor of the convention center, concurrent to two of the sessions, Thursday and Friday. They had Thursday and Friday, which is food chefs, paired with breweries and cideries on like one or two items with amuse bouche of various other just like super foodie pairings, and that's it. You can't go to both at the same time, but it's an incredible experience.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a brewery that like you never miss in Denver when you go?
Westbound and Down for me. They've got the Beer Alley, which is not far.
Have they got a Denver location now?
They do.
Okay.
And it's
Steps from the convention center.
yeah. There's like a food court situation,
had
a
a
high-end
great-
food court, and it's pretty awesome.
They had a great West Coast IPA throwdown event this year that was it was packed. You had to stand in line half an hour to get a beer, but it was amazing because you're in line with amazing beer people. You all would have known everybody there. That was just that kind of an event. Really neat. My favorite event that I don't miss every year is the Beer Hall Brawl at Bierstadt. It is a night of professional wrestling in a brewery with lagers. Bierstadt is one of the premier lager breweries in the country. Slow pour pills, the whole craze around Lucre handles, the side pull handles and everything. A lot of credit goes to them for just kind of spearheading that because that's the only kind of handles they have. They have like 16 of these side pull handles. So you're drinking great lagers, and it's a Colorado Pro-Am kind of group that puts this on. They put on a show that is very, very, very good. The stunts they pull off and things is crazy. There's been years that the fight, quote unquote, like spills out not only into the crowd, but then so the bar for Bierstadt is actually on the mezzanine level up above. So you're looking down on it, and of course there's tons of people, there's hundreds of people around the ring. But you can just drink up above it and look down on it. The fight spills out into the crowd, up the stairs. They're in the bar now. Glasses are breaking.
Whoa.
There's a little thing of like games and puzzles or whatever, that's in every brewery or whatever that some guy just gets smashed into and pieces go everywhere all over the floor. You're just like, this is amazing. What's happening? I love that event. I will not miss that event when I'm in Denver. So yeah, Beer Hall Brawl, very worth it. Free to attend. Just get beers and hang out. And it's awesome. I love the West Coast IPA throwdown was great. What's some other favorite events that you got to get in on this year or previous years?
There's an event. I don't know how invite only it is or how public it is. I don't think it's public, but at Bierstadt also tiki drinks with Jeff Bagby of Bagby Brewing, formerly of Pizza Port, friend of mine who now just goes and mixes up cocktails, tiki drinks on Saturday night, and they've kind of got a little invite thing. It becomes a industry sort of insider event, and it's kind of behind all the things, so it's not at the main bar at Bierstadt. But if you can get an invite to that, there's some pretty awesome cocktails there, and it's sort of cocktails by donation, which is also fun too. You throw $20 or $40 into their little bartender thing, and it's pretty fun Saturday night.
That's pretty cool.
Especially because you've been drinking beer, judging beer or drinking beer. It's like Saturday night comes, it's like kind of beered out. Time for a cocktail.
Yep. I feel you.
I would also say like Finn's Manor is generally doing things all
Great
week
bar.
up in the Rhino.
Yeah. How do we not talk
And,
about Finn's
yeah,
Manor?
I mean, and then that's like a block from OMF, and there's just like a ton of things you can do on foot right there.
The
But
whole
Finn's
Rhino
had a
area,
crazy list every night.
River North area of Denver, known as Rhino. That's where Bierstadt is as well.
Yeah.
Bierstadt.
Our mutual friend,
Ratio. Yep.
Finn's Manor. Yeah, great. You just can walk around that street and have world-class beers all day long.
It's great. And that street, like a big section of that street is actually even closed off to traffic. So it's like this walkable area of just nightlife and stuff. If you're in Denver and it's not GABF season, you need to go to that area. Like Finn's Manor is very much if you're here in the Portland metro area, you're familiar with Roscoe's. I would compare it a little bit to Roscoe's in terms of like it feels like a dive bar, except the tap list is always world
Right. You walk
class.
in and you say, this bar won't have great beers. And then you look at the tap list and you're like, oh my gosh, these are beers I've been seeking out. So,
And they have an outdoor patio that's like a club as well.
Yeah,
so it's like
big.
Roscoe's with a club.
Yeah. You go out on the patio and there's
Yeah.
a DJ spinning, and it's a whole vibe out there too. Yeah, Finn's Manor is pretty special. Pretty special.
Yeah.
That sushi lineup at Roscoe's too, man. When you can,
That's pretty
it's
great.
just weird to go into that place, play a game of pool, have beer that like is 1 in a million, and then some sushi comes through the side door that's like some of the best you've ever seen.
I wouldn't sleep on the jambalaya either.
Right. All of their food is super solid. So
This portion has been brought to you by no, they haven't.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, no, it's not actually. We just love Roscoe's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, gosh, we've talked about Denver. We talked about GABF. We've got into all these incredible conversations. We've just simply run out of time. So that's it. That was Overthinkr.
We did it.